We are storytellers by nature, sharing with others what we experience, perceive, and believe of life, our joys, adventures, our losses. We tell ourselves stories as well. Some leave us trapped by false beliefs and self-doubt. But there are also stories of persisting, exploring, and rising above. Stories of uncovering the truth, enabling powerful transformation and triumph. These are those stories. These are your stories. Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Zoe DeMuro. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a spiritual counselor, a religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and a transformational coach. Both my ministry and my mission are to help people co-create their most authentic and most fulfilling life experience. And I am truly honored and excited to bring this show to you. And so it is. Stories of truth, transformation, and triumph. Because this is how we can see just what it is that we have at our disposal as co-creators of our life experience. If this is your first time, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. So in each episode of this show, we listen to stories of how people like you, people like me, who have been held back by false limiting beliefs, have uncovered their truth, enabling them to transform their life experience and then literally to triumph because of their spiritual journey. Now, I know that some of these stories are going to come from a very challenging and frightening and even life-threatening beginning. Some of the topics could be triggering for you. Please remember, if that should occur, just breathe into it. You can always come back and watch the recording at your own pace if need be. But know this, when you are ready, the exploration of your life has greater rewards than you could ever imagine. And if necessary, please feel free to reach out to me for support. All right. Now then, let me just see one thing here. Oh, hello, Shay. Good to see you. All right. So for today's episode, I am truly honored to have Reverend Kim Andrews return as my guest today. Reverend Kim is the spiritual leader of Unity Saxe in Saxe, Texas. Through her ministry, she has helped others find inner peace through her healing modality and peace initiative, 8945 for Peace. And Reverend Kim is also part of the incredible trio of Real Talk Sisters, whose show airs on the New Thought Media Network every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Please help me welcome back Reverend Kim Andrews.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
Good to have you here, Reverend Kim. So, when last we saw you, we were dealing with the uglier part of this story, if you will. We were talking about the abuse that you had suffered as a young person, and we were able to get to the point where you had just started to really work on changing things for yourself. So you were in therapy. I believe you were in roughly your mid-20s at that time.
Yes.
Right? And we chose at the end of last month's episode to stop there because we just felt that there was so much more to say. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, one of the last things that you said really stuck with me. You said, there's a lot of beauty that came out of that experience. And that just seems so antithetical. How could that possibly be? So we are waiting with bated breath to hear more. So please.
In my 20s, and when I started that process of the therapy at the Rape Crisis Center, I could not have said that a lot of beauty would come out of that experience, because I was still very much in the dark part of the journey, and still very much suffering from the pain of it and everything that can come with sexual assault, rape, especially if it's, well, not especially. Mine happened over a period of time as a child between the ages of 6 and 8, I believe. And also I had other occurrences of sexual assault in my life. So there was a whole lot built up within me, and there was a lot to heal. So in the beginning of that journey, there was no silver lining. I couldn't see a silver lining other than the fact that now I had in my therapist, I had a lifeline. That was my silver lining. I had somebody who had the expertise and the heart to help me on my healing journey. And that means everything. Gosh, right before, I guess, as you and I signed off, as we were waiting for the show to start, and you said, as you always do, and I love it, have a great show. And I felt all this emotion. And I think some of it is, again, remembering this, and not in a bad way. So I don't feel like I'm suffering right now. It is a recognition of how far I have come. It is a recognition of how wonderful life can be. It's a recognition of how deeply we can heal, and a level of gratitude that renders me speechless. And the only way for me to acknowledge that is that the tears come. And we all have those moments. And the longer I live, the more of these moments I have where I'm just moved. And I think, oh my gosh, life is, yes, fraught with some dark days and dark moments. And that's can't compare to the amount of joy, bliss, love, the number of angels that show up in our lives, all of that. And, I could not have conceived of that when I started therapy. And I think that's one of the reasons why I encourage people to walk this journey of healing and to hang in there, because there is so much freedom and joy and gratitude for life, and an ability to not the ability, maybe the ability to celebrate life. Because yes, I wasn't able to celebrate life at that 20s. There was no celebrating life. I might have on the outside looked like I was celebrating some things, but on the inside I was dying. There was so much pain. I was just dying. And I could not have conceived what 20, 30, 40 years later would look and feel like. So anybody who's on their journey of healing, hang in there, hang in there. Healing is not easy, but it's absolutely worth it. It brings your life to the level of pricelessness, where you think, or you feel, it's because it's not a mental thing. You just get to a place. I have moments where I just say, oh, I'm just the luckiest girl in the world. I am. I live such an amazing life. And that is possible after great pain and great, deep, hurtful experiences. Absolutely. Yeah. So some of the beauty that came out of this, being able to forgive myself, get to a place where I knew that there was someone who took advantage of me, and and that the shame I carried was not mine to carry. I had no reason to be ashamed of what happened. Um, there was a perpetrator, a predator, who took advantage of me, and so I learned to let go of my shame and my anger at myself. Like, how could I do this to myself? I didn't do anything to myself.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that
Mhm.
when you're talking about forgiving yourself, you're not forgiving yourself for the abuse, right?
Right.
Because there's no reason to.
Mhm.
Having that self-compassion for allowing yourself to deal with what was and allowing yourself to see what can be. That's
Mhm.
so important. That's so
Yeah. Yeah.
important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned not to be to consider myself a victim. Something happened to me. I went through it. I came through it with all that I am and all that I was at the time. And um, I'm not going to live life as a victim. I'm going to heal as deeply as I can and move forward. But I am no one's victim. And that's freeing, because I think as long as I considered myself a victim, I was failing to empower myself to live differently and to heal more completely, I believe.
Mm.
For me, at least, staying in victimhood um, compromised my ability to heal. Because as long as I was a victim, I left things in the hands of my perpetrator. And when I refuse to be a victim, then I take my power back and I say, this will have no power over me. And my ability to heal is infinite.
Mm.
And I will not just survive this, I will thrive after this. And this will make me better. This will make me stronger, more resilient.
That's pretty wonderful when you think about it. If we were to get a cut on our finger and it got infected, well, we'd have to clean it out and bandage
Mhm.
it and do all of those wonderful things. And then when it was all healed, it was just, well, it's our finger again. But this type of healing brings so much more. It doesn't simply return you to a place where you had been. It
Mhm.
actually propels you forward.
Yes, yes. And I think, I believe that we are all light, and I think it enables us to shine our light more brightly,
Mm.
more brilliantly, and to recognize we have light, maybe. Because for a long time, I believed I was damaged goods as a result of what happened to me. And
Mhm.
once I let that go, then the light started to peek through. And I began to see that in myself. I began to feel that in myself. And it starts to change things. Because I think as the light starts to grow within us and we start to see it more clearly, then it grows exponentially.
So
And that's
bring us
wonderful.
back to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Um, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, bring us back to the time that um, either you finished with therapy or you're towards the latter part of that. And how did that change things for you? How did you act differently or what did you do differently?
Well, what led me to therapy was that I got dysfunctional and I froze, and I wasn't able to go through normal life with any level of competence, mentally, emotionally, physically. I literally froze physically at my job one night, and that's when I knew I needed help. So it gave me this freedom and power and energy for life. And I was now able to not just survive, but to do my work well, to see myself as this powerful being, to recognize my gifts more, and to be in the world as more of my true self, not as the victim or somebody who had something happen to her. So I started to integrate what happened to me within me in a healthier way. And because I believe we still carry things with us, but as we heal, we carry it differently. So it now started to become a story of victory and of transformation within me. And it started to help me, it was helping me grow and deepen my relationship with myself in a very healthy way, which changes how you are in the world.
Mhm.
So I was a whole lot more confident. I was able to be in relationship, even with my friends, more fully. I was more authentic. I didn't think I had to hide any parts of myself anymore, because I didn't have any shame.
Mhm.
I learned that there was no reason for me to be ashamed. I didn't do anything. That wasn't my shame. That's a perpetrator's shame, not mine. So I started slowly to release shame, and that does give you more energy for life. So I was showing up in the world better, because I felt better. I had a self-worth probably. Well, I had self-worth, but it was low. It came from a dark place. And now it was coming from a place of light and energy, um, from a quote unquote good place. So that's how it changes life, because we contract when we're in pain, when we're feeling victimized, when our trauma is looming large. We contract. It doubles us over, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And so when you start metaphorically and actually walking with your chin up and shoulders back, it changes life, and it changes what you allow into your life. So I had healthier relationships. Friendships got better and they were healthier. Some people dropped out of my life because some people were happier with the victim me,
Mm.
the one that was going through life besieged. And as I got healthier, some of those toxic relationships, all of the toxic relationships eventually went away.
Yeah,
And
that's a surprising side effect of transformation.
yeah, yeah. And can be
What a
painful, and it's something to grieve, because
Yep.
you think these relationships are based on some true connection or love, and then you find out, oh, they weren't. We're based on something else entirely. And sometimes we have to grieve those relationships.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are born perfect, whole, and complete. And then we spend a fair amount of time reminding ourselves.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that is if we're even aware enough to do that. And then we have to choose to do it.
And we have to choose it. And I think in the beginnings of the journey, you're choosing it often. You may have to choose it several times out of a day. You may have to choose it hourly. You may have to choose it minute by minute. And so I think, yes, healing is a choice, and it doesn't just happen once. It didn't for me. I've chosen it over and over again over 4-5 decades.
Mm.
6 now. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is another show coming up. But yes, over.
I'm sitting here with my 7 decades, so
Oh gosh, I'm really a youngster. So
So
I think that's important to read for maybe for people to hear that it is a choice over time and time again. It was a choice when you asked me to come on the show. When you first asked me, I didn't know I was going to talk about this part of my life. And then it became very clear. And yet, when it did become clear, I knew that I needed to heal at a different level now around this story for me to move forward with what I'm called to do at this time in my life. And so I said yes to it again, because I could have just said, okay, Zoe, no, I'm sorry, I can't, I won't. And yeah. And when we realized we were going to do a second part of the show, I could have said, no, I can't talk about it anymore. Let's just leave it. I did what I could. And so, yes, it's a choice again and again. And maybe I'll continue to make that choice throughout my life. And I say, okay, bring it on, if so. Because there is greater freedom every single time you say yes. There's greater joy. There's greater peace. Absolutely greater peace. And sometimes I think when we can't get to joy, we can at least get to peace. And in the midst of the tears and the bittersweet moments, you say, at least I'm at peace now. I have greater peace now. And I think that's highly valuable, which is one of the reasons why I started my peace initiative, because I think personal peace, inner peace, is perhaps one of life's greatest gifts.
Yeah, without a doubt. And of course, for peace to be available for us, we also need safety.
Yeah.
And safety is a big issue for people such as us who have been abused. So how did you go about creating a greater sense of safety in your life?
So I think that came from cultivating a deep sense of self-confidence. And self-confidence in that I got to a place where I knew that stuff can happen and I could be victimized again in life. But what I did know is that I would be okay, that I now had some tools to help myself heal, that perhaps if I was in a similar situation again, that I might show up differently there, that I'm coming from such a different place now in life. I show up so much differently now that I just have a place of knowingness that everything would be okay. And also I've grown spiritually. And so I know even when in my humanness, that I am struggling, that there is this force that is love, that is good, that is God, is in and through everything, including me. And that is my safety. Because stuff's going to happen. That's just life. Pain comes, change comes, grief happens. And my place of safety is my my innate divinity, which is first cause of all that I am. That's where I get my self-confidence from. That's where I get my strength from. That's where I get my resilience from. I pull from that. And in my humanness, when I'm feeling like that's lagging or I don't have anymore, I remember my innate divinity. And then I don't just know rationally, I know that I know that I know in my bones that there's always more. I just have to open myself to it. And that might take some time, and that might take some tears. That might take some forgiveness or forgiveness of others, but I always know it's there. I always know it's there. And that in itself makes me feel safe. That I'm going to be okay, because I believe that there is, that life truly is goodness and love and God. Because life happens, stuff happens, and stuff can hit the fan at any time. And so I have been heartbroken since then. I've been betrayed. I don't know that I've been what you'd call victimized again, but yes, there's certainly been pain in my life, loss, deep losses. And I always knew that there's this container that is life, that is all life, that runs through everything and through me. And so that's what gives me peace. And I say, okay, I now know I can walk through this, because sometimes it does get deep. The stuff gets real deep and you say, oh, I don't know about this. But then when I sit in the quiet and I get open, then I know, oh, okay, no, that God hasn't changed. That part that I believe that undergirds everything is still there. I just need to lean on it. I need to lean on it. I need to call it forth. I need to invoke it. So that's the safety. Otherwise, well, even if you locked yourself in your house, a tornado could come through, your house could catch on fire, tornado could wipe everything off its foundation. My spouse could die. Anything could happen, anything. And so I'm aware of that, not in a morose way, but in a way that life can change on a dime in an instant. And yet I have all the tools I need in order to move through it with as much grace and strength as I can.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that is very common for people who have been abused is to isolate. Starts out of pain and out of guilt and shame, and then it just becomes a pattern. And it's remarkable and it's wonderful that you were able to break that early in life. Because one of the things that becomes problematic is boundaries. So being able to set realistic boundaries requires that you have an understanding of your own worth.
Yes. Yeah. And discover what healthy boundaries are. When I thought of the man that assaulted me in my 20s, I didn't have healthy boundaries with him. And so I had to learn what that was, and then find what worked for me. And that took some testing of different things, kind of some trial and error. I started to trust my intuition more, because there were red flags around him. And I ignored them because I didn't have a deep sense of self-worth. And so I was always looking for affirmation outside of me, always. And one thing that predators do well is that. to show up for you in a way that says, I can take care of you. I've got this.
Mm.
I'm safe. I'm what you need. I'm here for you. You can come to me. And then eventually, once they know, and they know when they've got you, that's when the well, you've already been victimized in the process, but then it ratchets up, and it may go from emotional abuse to physical abuse, or greater emotional and mental abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, healthy boundaries, trusting myself, trusting my gut. I now know when, the hair goes up on the back of your neck. My gut tells me, don't do this. And I don't question it. I used to think, well, why? Now I don't wait for why. And sometimes the why doesn't come. Something within me just says, move, or get out of there, or get away from them, or don't do this, or cut off the conversation, or walk away, or whatever it is. It tells me. I just listen, and I do what it tells me. But if you don't have a certain level of self-worth, you don't trust your gut or your intuition. And well, I was not taught that. I probably was taught to just do as I was told. And I don't know that I was specifically taught to ignore my gut, but we didn't talk about it. It's not something I learned in my home life. And I'll have to think about that some more. But yeah, I learned to trust my gut, and I always believe we're being guided, that there's an inner GPS, and I believe that's God. Some people call it the Holy Spirit, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it. I think as long as you hear it and heed it, that's what matters. And when I started to do that and to trust that, then there was definitely safety in that. Because now I know if I get in a situation and I'm not really seeing it, there's a part of me that will, and that will protect me. So I always know I'm protected and guided.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to stay tuned in that I'm hearing it.
Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact that you also surround yourself with people that are of good hearts and just wonderful spirituality.
Yeah, and that changes everything. But when you get to a certain place in life, you start attracting them, and the others go away. Predators don't hang around with people they can't, when your energy is different, because then there's nothing for them to do. There's no one for them to victimize. They know when somebody's vulnerable. They seek that out. They actually teach each other how to seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the very sad part of this, that they support each other and teach each other how to groom victims, those who are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's, safety comes from within, I think. And I think as we feel that safety more within, then we stop viewing the world as a dangerous place. I know it is a place where stuff can happen, but I don't view the world as dangerous. And I think we can start to isolate, like you said, when we believe the world is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know who to trust. Because for a while, I didn't trust most men, if any. I trusted my father, my godfather. But all other men were suspect. And I always assumed that if I was in the company of a man, that at some point I could be victimized, and would be. So I could get in an elevator, and if I was by myself and a man got on the elevator, I would automatically get off. And now I just kind of, I let my inner GPS speak to me. If something says get off the elevator, I do. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't, try to make it look like I'm getting off the elevator for some other reason other than the fact that he got on. I don't care. I'm just off the elevator. So yeah, the world becomes a kinder place when we have more inner safety.
As within, so without.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let me bring up the big question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Forgiveness. This is, without a doubt, for anyone who has been abused, a really big issue. And one that people struggle with, people misunderstand, misrepresent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But can you tell me about how forgiveness fit into your story?
So I think my forgiveness, I opened the door to forgiveness that day. I was sitting in the parking lot outside the perpetrator's home. And I was sitting in the parking lot of his apartment building. And then I realized that I was seething with anger, that I was hurting myself and not him. And that process started me on the path of seeing him differently. And a lot of this was connected to my spiritual growth. So I knew at some point that if I didn't forgive, I was going to continue to suffer. And I would have resentment, probably hate, some other toxic emotions swirling within me, my body, my mind, my spirit, my heart. And so I saw it as a gift to myself to forgive my perpetrators. And that has been a long journey. I just had something happen a couple of months ago. So here I am, 60 years from being victimized as a child. And I did forgive. But I think there's in forgiveness, there's a place where you get, how do I explain this? Where you can shine a light on the person who perpetrated something against you. So I had never, even though I had forgiven my perpetrators, especially the man who assaulted me as a child, I had never prayed for him.
Mm.
And a couple of months ago, I did. In the front of my spiritual community, because we have a portion of our service where we say the names of people for whom we want to pray. And people are welcome to say the names out loud, or they can just say them within and recognize who that person is. And I said his name out loud. And I just wept because I knew I had gotten to a place of greater forgiveness and probably had come into true alignment with my spiritual beliefs, which is that each of us is an innate expression of the divine. We don't all express that. And that's perpetrators are so out of alignment with who they are, who I believe they are as spiritual beings. I believe he has a spark of God like I do. To recognize that and to say it out loud and to wish him all good things is a long way along the forgiveness route. There was a lot of forgiveness work, but yeah, it took 60 years for me to publicly say his name aloud, because I don't know that I ever really did in 60 years. He was just this entity, this thing in my life. He was what he perpetrated on me. And in that moment, I separated the two things. I separated deed from doer, and I recognized him as light. And I don't know what he's up to now. I don't know if he's dead or alive. I don't. But I do know now that the emotional tie I had to him is broken. The energetic tie, or as I think about my beliefs as they are evolving, that now there's a love connection between us that is divine love. I might not ever want to be in his physical presence, because I don't know what his life is now, if he's alive. But spiritually, there's a love connection there. And I believe that's a good thing. So forgiveness, I think, can be a long, long journey. And it can be circuitous. And I think we can step forward and then pull back, and step forward and pull back. Depends on if stuff is triggering. You know, we might be in a moment where something's triggered us, and then all of a sudden we're back there again. And maybe you're thinking, I don't know about this forgiveness thing. You know, I'm feeling the hurt again. So yeah, I think some may believe, and I think I did until going through this process, that forgiveness may happen in an instant, that you say, oh, it's forgiven now. I think it can be a journey. It certainly has been for me, obviously 60 years later. You know, here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an image that I hold in my mind that, you know, our life just keeps revolving, and we move around that, around our memories, around our experiences. But as we move around it, we're also changing. You know, so if we are fortunate enough to be growing, then we're sort of ascending in this spiral. But we keep passing the same things over and over. We have the same memories, we have the same experiences. But who we are going into those experiences, remembrance of them is different. And I think for people who have been abused, that there is sometimes a fear to go back and look at this again.
Yeah.
But we're not the same people. All right? We have more capability. We have more awareness. We have a greater recognition of our ability to choose. Right? Linda put a comment in saying, it's so freeing to realize I have choice over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I invite people to say yes over and over again to healing, because I certainly am. Because I do now know that there's more greater freedom on the other side of saying yes again. You know, I was just thinking, I was at a conference early in October, and I did a labyrinth walk. It was only my second time doing one. And before that walk, I had recognized I probably needed to do some inner child work, so that part of my 6-year-old self, my 6, 7, and 8-year-old self who was sexually assaulted, she has loomed large lately. And so I'm on this labyrinth walk, and I haven't done a lot of inner child work. I've just kind of stepped my toes in it and kind of just left it open. And I thought, okay, when the right work is there for me, I'm willing to do it. But on this labyrinth walk, so I'm just kind of going through the walk, and, you know, just kind of trusting what's happening and allow myself to feel. And it's the inner child in me, or I said to my inner child, it's time now to step into something we are called to be. And I need you with me. Because I realized that my 6 to 7, 8-year-old self has carried me and has strengthened me and has galvanized me and enabled me to live the life I've led all these years. But what I heard back, and which just brought tears of recognition, was that she said, "You don't need me, but I'm with you. And I will always be with you, but you don't need me." And man, that said volumes to me about the depth of my healing.
Mhm.
And so I now believe I carry her with me from a place of strength, and together we will enjoy this and enjoy this freedom that we didn't have at that age, that I believed was stolen from me. I thought that predator had killed that part of me, and it hadn't been. Um, yeah. So to hear that, she was telling me, "No, you've got this, and I'm here for the ride. So let's do this." Yeah, I'm with you all the way, in a very glorious, triumphant way.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was quite the moment. It really was. Oh gosh. Yeah, quite the moment.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah, it was huge. I don't think I could have gotten there from a book. I read about inner child work. Yeah.
We have a comment here from our Reverend Kim. "I appreciate you being so brave to be so authentic and honest with your story, inspiring healing for so many others."
Thank you for listening. Yeah, and being a partner in my healing here, because I'm healing as I share. Yeah.
And it is a part of the healing to be able to talk about these things.
Yeah.
They don't get any better by being held inside.
They don't. They just fester, and they'll eat away at us, either emotionally or maybe physically. There's so much research now, about keeping our, if we keep our pain and our trauma tucked somewhere, that eventually something will, it will have its out one way or the other, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 But the good thing is that it's never too early, never too late to start that healing.
That's right. Even if you start 60 years, 70 years later, I think if you have a measure of peace, a good measure of peace, even for your last 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years of life, that's wonderful. So don't be afraid to heal, and I think, sometimes we do think, oh, it's too far away. I don't need that. If we haven't dealt with it, it's a lot closer than we think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Shay has asked a question. She said, "I'm in the thick of healing. What else would you say to encourage me?"
I've been there. It can get really thick. And that's not a bad place to be. I know, Shay, it probably feels like it, and it feels messy, and it feels ugly, and it's painful, and it's probably dark. And it gets better. So I know that there's a tendency to run and to shut it off. But it really is true that freedom is on the other side of the place where you are now. And yes, I've been there. And yeah, if we retreat, we contract. And I do believe that all of us are here on this earth, on this physical plane at this time in life because we have something to share. And you do too, Shay. And all your gifts, all your light, all your freedom is on the other side of that. So I invite you to stay in. I invite you to stay in. And I know it's not easy. And I do believe that we are empowered with all we need for whatever is on our path right now. And so you've got what you need inside you. And I would say trust that side of you. Trust your light. Even if it's a point of light, trust that, because when you trust that, it grows exponentially. So hang in there and reach out if you need help. I was in therapy more than once. I was in formal therapy twice, and other forms of things that were like therapy that served as therapy. Probably 5, 6, 7, 8 things over the decades. So yeah, hang in there.
To that point, Reverend Kim, let me bring this up.
Yes.
If any of you are dealing with abuse, whether it's for yourself or someone else, there are many, many different things that are available for you. I've just listed a few of the things here. So do a screenshot, or you can contact me and I'll be more than happy to send this to you. But there is such a change in the world. Things have gotten so much better, even though it might not feel like that all the time. But I can tell you, back in the 1950s, we weren't talking about child abuse.
We were not.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
There are, as I said, many, many possible ways to get the help that you need.
And there are a lot of us out there who have dealt with this. They say 1 in 6 boys, 1 in 4 girls are sexually assaulted in their lives. And so if you're in a room of 10 people, there's at least 1 or maybe 2 or 3 others in the room who share a similar history. And sometimes it just takes us saying it out loud. And if there's someone else who's on the journey of healing, they might raise their hand or give you a look, and yeah, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more within your family, and nobody's talking about it. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Reverend Kim. It has been just an absolutely spectacular opportunity to learn from you, to understand more of where you came from and how it has brought about who you are today.
Yeah. It can be
that. Your compassion and your love and your honesty and your openness, they're second to none.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to whatever tells you who to ask to be on the show. Because this was another step in my healing. I do know that. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate your heart. So I say to those who are listening, if you do need help, I would reach out to Zoe. You just have a gentleness and an openness and a generous heart, a loving heart that is very, very special. Yeah, you're a special light, Zoe. So
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I know you bring that to all of your gifts and the initials behind your name and things like that, the work that you do. A lot of people know book stuff. Not everybody brings their heart and their full selves to what they do. And I know you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested, this is how you reach me, zodemiro@gmail.com. And Reverend Kim, you have a website, The Call to
Yes.
Peace.
Yeah.
www.thecalltopeace.com. And we can learn more about your project there.
Yes. Yeah. I'll have more on social media and out in the world. And this day, the 2 interviews have helped me find more of that strength and more of that light for this work. So I appreciate it.
And we appreciate you for that. Most certainly.
Mm.
All right. So, folks, without a doubt, allow yourselves to grow, allow yourselves to explore, allow yourselves to recognize the beauty that exists within.
Mm.
Recognize that, oh my goodness, you are loved. You are absolutely loved, and you yourselves are loved. If the concept of this show resonated with you, please let people know about it. All right? Use your own social media, your personal discussions, whatever you can do, because as we've pointed out, there are many of us out there,
Mm-hmm.
all right, many of us who need to gather those kindred souls, those people who understand, those people who can look at us and see the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, a couple more comments here. Thank you, Mara.
Yes, Mara, thank you. And Shay, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you all. All right, folks. I will see you next month. And I want you to just have a spectacular, spectacular day, knowing how magnificent and spectacular you are. We'll see you soon. Let me get rid of this. And then, see, it's hard to be the show producer sometimes.
Produce your own stuff.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Reverend Kim.
Thank you with all my heart. Yes.
Okay. Bye, folks.